All right. Welcome to Jack Colley's Black Book. Today is July 6th, 2024. It's in the upper right-hand corner of the green box here. And you'll notice the ticker. We're still on seasons right here. And we're just going to kind of keep talking about that and just several other ideas that I have in my black book that I write these ideas down in. Today we're going to talk about winter. And what we're doing, I should back up a little bit. What we're doing is we're processing the limits of literal interpretation when it comes to stories, whether it's our own stories or whether it's, some of the cultural stories that we hear. And if you want to hear kind of how I associate stories in my music and in my art, there's a song I have, Jack Colley Seasons, and it's the seasons refer to different seasons in my daughter's life. So different events, different seasons in her life and how they associate with winter, spring, summer, fall. And so you can give that a listen to if you want to see kind of an example of sometimes how I just interpret different aspects of life. And here we are in autumn. And autumn to me, it's the season coming out of summer. So we have summer, which is this season of maintenance, of just relaxing. We have come out of spring and out of winter, which is death. And we can now, in the season of summer, we can kind of trust that the earth is going to take care of itself, that life can just kind of maintain for a while. There's this idea of relaxing. And what I would like to talk about is, of course, when summer is done, and we've allowed the earth to kind of maintain, we have to, at some point, we have to begin dealing with death again. We have to begin to acknowledge that we live in all of these cycles. And coming out of this maintenance period of summer, we enter this season of perpetual dying, like the process of dying. And we see it in stories, we see it in our own lives. We see different events happen where, one thing that just came to mind is, of course, have had two grandmothers, and, one grandmother, I had I don't know if you want to call it an opportunity or maybe it was a gift. I'm not sure. Of course, it was also horrible because so many of these events in our lives have this interesting tension. But I had one grandma who was in hospice for some time. And over several days, it was the autumn of her life. It was the autumn of our relationship in many ways. And I had to be with her. And in some ways, it was really beautiful and poignant, and just created this interesting tension of here's my grandma, and I know that the trajectory is going to be death. And yet, I could be there for her through this transition. There was something beautiful about that. I think of losing my other grandma. My other grandmother passed away in her sleep. And I remember because my family decided to do a sort of remembrance that was like several weeks after her death. And I remember that I just needed to have some sort of closure. And I went to the funeral home and asked them, actually my mother helped me to arrange this, if I could just sit with my grandmother. And so they brought out this pine box and it had a bow on it. They had put a bow on it and made it look nice. And I just had to sit with my grandmother in terms of just saying goodbye to her. So that's kind of autumn, that's kind of fall. It's all of these events in our lives where we are in the process of saying goodbye. We're in the process of preparing for the next season where we may have to live without a loved one, or preparing for the next season where, for example, the trauma has ended and now we just have to be with that pain and figure out what that's going to look like before we are reborn into, a kind of a new or a changed creation out of trauma. I mean, all of these interesting symbols with story. So I have a Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday. That was a weird transition, but let's just go with it. And I brought down in the studio with me, this is my small Jack Skeleton doll, my favorite character probably in literature or movies. And Jack Skeleton, I've got Well, I've got a big Jack skeleton too, but his bow fell off, so we'll just use the small one here. And that's where I changed my name from my given name to Jack. And Jack is a derivative of my given name, but this is kind of one of my heroes. This idea that you take Halloween and you try as you might to make Christmas your favorite holiday. Because I know a lot of my friends, and they will say that Christmas is their favorite holiday, and I'm kind of like, nope, Halloween is mine. I got to go with Halloween. I think there's something with yin yang, something that will come up often is this idea of the yin yang being this balance between chaos and order. That this idea of death and life in the yin yang, and or yin yang, I should say. Uh, Autumn is the time in the story, the events in our lives where we just know where something is heading, and we can embrace it and we can learn from it, but we almost have to accept that the perpetual direction of the events in autumn and fall are going to lead toward some sort of death. And the hope that we have is that after we get on the other side of death, there is this rebirth, which is spring. And of course, in all the religious traditions, there's something to be said about the after death experience. And that's whether it's heaven or nirvana, or the absorption. I think I'm saying that right, into the Braham. But there's all of these ideas that after death, we somehow have this new experience, and we'll keep revisiting that. Halloween, my gosh, I love Halloween. I get a Christmas tree right around, I would say right around October 1. I go to a Christmas tree farm and I buy a Christmas tree and I decorate it with orange and purple lights. I have skeletons and skulls that I hang on it. I have scorpions that I put on it. I have all this fun stuff because I feel like it's important to acknowledge that death is a part of living. That's something in a way to be celebrated because it gives us this opportunity to experience life. I mean, we all know that when you come into contact with death, that it can be very sobering, but it can also give us this vibrant new way to live, that we can come out of these experiences saying, I'm going to do this different, even with the death of somebody else. So as we look at stories, as we continue to kind of investigate how stories and seasons can kind of support each other, like looking at stories within the context of seasons and associating different stories with different seasons, we can maybe have this opportunity to see the complexity and the beauty of life. That's kind of where I'm going here. And in the end, I think this is what it's about. It's about the idea of do not fear. I think, again, I'm most familiar with the Christian tradition, and the idea of not fearing comes up very frequently. I mean, there's these ideas of do not fear, don't live in a life of fear. And it's clear that we do sometimes. We get these different political messages that if such and such doesn't happen, if so and so are not elected, that somehow things are just going to bottom out and things are going to just be destroyed. We get this idea even with like products. If you think about that, if you don't have this product, boy, you better be careful if you don't have this product because something's going to happen and you're not going to measure up, something like that. Or, even with my cell phone, the do not fear. If I leave my house and I'm 2 minutes from home and I have forgotten my cell phone, how I just turn around because I can't live without my cell phone, because there's this element of fear that, if something happens, I'm not going to be informed, and all of that is it's the different types of fear that really kind of, it keeps us oppressed. It keeps us from living. And that's what autumn is all about. There's this idea of do not fear, that we can actually, here's another way to look at it. We can actually be with death. We can actually be in a season of death and not fear. I can be with one of my grandmothers and with the other of my grandmothers in these perpetual death developments, this perpetual dying, and we can still have faith and we don't have to fear. So to me, there's something beautiful about that, and so yeah. Well, let's stop there. It's been several minutes, and next stop is the Three Little Pigs. So we'll see you next time. Namaste, my friends.